Have you ever wondered how some traders turn a small stake into millions with one brilliant bet? In 2007, legendary investor Jim Rogers earned over $100 million by predicting the subprime mortgage crisis. His move proved that massive gains can be made during times of upheaval for those bold enough to look past the panic and see the possibilities. Here, we will tell the stories of the top 10 traders who turned the market upside down with just one perfectly executed trade. Number 10, Richard Dobazzi, the Robinhood trader who turned $15,000 into $1 million and lost it all. Richard was hungry for more money, more freedom, more control over his future. A Navy vet and father of two, he dreamed of the day he could walk away from the 9-to-5 and live life on his terms. When he discovered Robinhood, a trading app that gave him a taste of Wall Street with no fees, he saw his chance. He deposited his measly life savings, just $15,000, and dove in, buying stocks, selling options, gambling on crypto. The wins came fast, feeding his risk appetite. Soon $15,000 became $30,000, then $50,000, then $100,000. For the first time, he felt truly alive, like he could take on the world. But the more he won, the more he wanted. He maxed out credit cards to double down on his bets. He rated his home equity and his wife's retirement, betting it all on himself. The rush was intoxicating. At his peak, his account topped $1 million. He was living the dream, or so he thought. Then it all came crashing down. One bad trade turned into 2, then 10. Losses piled up as his high-flying positions collapsed. Desperate, he scrambled to recover, but only sank deeper. What was once a 7-figure fortune dissolved into thin air. Before he knew it, he owed Robinhood over $200K. The life he built was shattered. All he had left were the tears of his family and the disappointment in his children's eyes. He realized too late there's no such thing as a free trade. The market always collects its debts. And number 9, Takashi Kodagawa, the Japanese bedroom trader who made $17 million in one day. The market is an unforgiving beast that devours both the weak and unwary. Let me spin a tale of Takashi Kodagawa, known to some as the J-Com Man, perhaps the shrewdest trader Japan has ever seen. In the smoldering ruins of 2001's bear market, Takashi began as any man might, with humble hopes and a meager 13K stack. But where others saw failure, he saw fortune. Each day he stalked the exchanges, eyes peeled for signs the market had shifted. With patience and precision, he tracked divergences between price and indicators. Slowly, his stack grew trade by trade. Bollinger Bands squeezed, RSI flashed, volumes told their story and he profited. Then in 2005, the trade that grew his legend, when a Mizuho man fat-fingered an order, dumping 610K shares for pennies. The market reeled, but Takashi smelled blood in the water. He struck, swift and sure, snatching the falling knife from the panicked masses. Come dawn, his 7K share gambit had paid 17 million fold. The papers called it luck. He knew it was his to claim. While others felt the thrill of victory, he remained detached. Heart of ice, hands of gold. Emotion had no place in his calculus. Only cold, dispassionate analysis. To this day, Takashi prowls the exchanges. A shadow among men. They call him J-Com Man, but his true name is Fortune. And he is her favorite son. The market obeys his whispers. Its tides ebb and flow at his command. He has mastered its rhymes, deciphered its code, and made it his unforgiving plaything. And number 8, George Soros, the man who broke the Bank of England. They called him the man who broke the Bank of England. George Soros, the legendary investor, showed the world that no currency is too big and no government too strong. It was 1992. The British pound was locked in a high-stakes game, chained to Europe's exchange rate mechanism. But Soros had studied the system, and he knew its flaws. He saw that John Major's government could not hold back the tide. Quietly, he built his position, a $10 billion short, the greatest currency bet in history. He took no joy in it, only cold calculation. As the summer wore on, his wager smelled like a gathering storm. Other speculators joined his ranks, sensing blood. Still, the Bank of England fought back with rate hikes and printing money, but Soros and his hedge fund waited, patient as the sea eroding stone. Then Black Wednesday came. Major blinked. The pound cut loose and Soros' fortune was made, over $1 billion in a day. He closed his position, mission accomplished. Some called it an attack, he called it a job well done. In the end, all currencies fail. Soros simply understood this truth and history sooner than most. He broke the bank that day, but with wisdom, not malice. The man who sees further remains the master of his trade. Number 7, Jim Rogers, the co-founder of Quantum Fund, who made $100 million in 1 year. The Oracle of Omaha himself once called himself one of the best investors in the world. Jim Rogers, a man who saw around corners and pounced before the crowd caught wise, back in 1979. While Wall Street slept, Jim was busy doing his homework. He poured through port reports and production figures from lands far-flung. There, encoded between the lines, clues emerged that few cared to heed. Inflation's pulse quickened overseas. The dollar's days numbered, it seemed. A fortune was to be made if only he dared to bet big on what he decoded. So into commodities and currencies, his millions were placed, a wager the size of kings' ransoms. In the meantime, the bulls dreamed small, eyes shut to signs all around. As '79 ended, the fireworks began. His crazy bets paid off like few others ever saw. Over 100 million materialized where doubters saw folly. The Oracle had been right all along. His foresight was the stuff of legends. In the end, Jim claimed no magic, only insight and intuition honed. A lesson as clear as today as when this market sage first started decoding the world. And number 6, Paul Tudor Jones, the trader who predicted the 1987 Black Monday crash. Paul Tudor Jones was one of the greatest traders to ever play the game. As the founder and mastermind behind Tudor Investment Corporation, he turned $1,000 into over $10 billion in assets under management through sheer will and skill. But his success went far beyond money. He was a man driven to understand the ebb and flow of markets through a study of history, psychology, and his own preternatural instincts. In 1987, those instincts were screaming. He saw the ghost of 1929 in every chart and indicator. The market was drunk on its own success and careening towards a cliff. While others were blind, Jones peered into the darkness and saw what few could imagine. He would place the biggest bet of his life. Armed with Elliott waves, Fibonacci sequences, and moving averages, Jones tracked the rising fever of the herd. He watched sentiment grow delusional and data point to troubles unseen. Like a master tactician, he positioned his pieces for checkmate. Every short, every put, every precious metal and bond was a chess move in his grand strategy to survive the coming crash. On that infamous Monday, the dam finally broke. Panic washed over Wall Street as the Dow plunged in a single harrowing session. But for Jones, it was triumph. As markets bled out billions, his genius netted over 100 mil, a bounty for seeing what others could not. Though victorious, he took no pleasure in the carnage. He had simply done as traders must, follow the signs and play the hand that is dealt. While most remember Black Monday, few recalled a man who avoided the fall. But Paul Tudor Jones saw further and deeper than the rest. In seizing the opportunity of '87, he cemented a legacy as one of the greatest investors of all time. A man who could hear the market's inner workings and outwit both fear and greed. A man who transformed the game, all through a mastery of history, psychology, and preternatural skill. And number 5, Richard Dennis, the turtle trader who turned $400 into $200 million. Richard Dennis was no ordinary trader. From meager beginnings, he transformed $400 into a $250 million empire through a mastery of trends, discipline, and sheer instinct. As co-founder of the infamous Turtle Traders, he would school novices in his visionary system. But in 1980, the maestro himself was just getting warmed up for his magnum opus. Scanning markets with the eyes of a hawk, Dennis saw what others could not. A deep value in the sweet white powder known as sugar. While analysts doubted, his intuition sensed the winds of change. Demand was rising and supply tightening. He knew that if the trend took hold, the gains would be astronomical. Armed with breakouts, moving averages, and calculated risk, Dennis loaded up on sugar futures, call options primed. He was all in, betting it all on his conviction that history was on his side. Months passed and naysayers mocking his folly. But Dennis had seen the truth and stayed locked on course as his vision slowly came to fruition. Then it happened, the explosive move to end all moves. Sugar rocketed from pennies to a record high as his prophesized trend materialized. Overnight, Dennis crashed in on the score of a century. As 100 million poured in, his genius was cemented for all time. While the masses were blind, Dennis had seen the invisible. He alone grasped the market's rhythm, its ebb and flow, not through luck, but through a lifetime study of systems and self. In seizing the 1980 sugar bonanza, he proved beyond doubt his mastery of the game, his preternatural skill to see what others could never see. Richard Dennis, the trader of traders, had checkmated them all. At number 4, John Paulson, the hedge fund manager who made $4 billion from the subprime crisis. John Paulson was a man who saw what others could not. As head of the mighty Paulson & Co., his vision stretched farther than the blind optimism gripping Wall Street. While banks fueled the housing frenzy with risky loans and lax standards, Paulson peered closer. He sensed the rot beneath the surface, prices rising on thin air, and borrowers were stretched too far. It was madness, he knew, and the reckoning would be catastrophic. So he loaded up on credit default swaps, weapons primed to profit from the coming collapse. The housing market was a ticking time bomb, and Paulson held the detonator. As mortgages soared and foreclosures mounted, he stood ready to trigger the biggest payday in financial history. Then in 2007, the fire started, and Paulson lit the fuse. Subprime lenders crumbled, loans turned to ashes, and securities proved worthless. But through it all, Paulson's positions printed money. Over $4 billion cascaded into his war chest as the economy burned. On that fiery trade, his genius was seared into Wall Street lore for all time. While the damage was deep, none could deny Paulson's foresight. He alone saw through the bubble's thin veneer, not through chance, but through a vision few others shared. In engineering the trade of the century, John Paulson proved beyond doubts his preternatural ability to see the future and profit from the inevitable fall. At number 3, Stephen Cohen, the founder of SAC Capital, who made $1.4 billion in one day. Stephen Cohen was more than just a king. He was a titan, towering over mere mortals on Wall Street. As founder of the legendary SAC Capital, billions flowed through his fingers. But in 2006, even he would play a hand for the ages. Word spread of a Dutch media giant, VNU, soon to be swallowed at a mere 28 euros per share. But Cohen sensed a deeper truth. He knew this company's worth was stratospheric, so he loaded up on shares and calls, holding the keys to untold riches if his vision held. Then the game began. Pressure mounted from Cohen and his growing horde of shareholders. The buyers blinked, so he loaded up on shares and calls, holding the keys to untold riches if his vision held, raising their bid, trying to outmaneuver the master. But it was too late. Cohen was locked onto his prey. When the dust settled, his positions had spawned a mind-warping $1.4 billion windfall. In a single stroke, Cohen etched his name in financial lore. They called him king, but he played more like a god, wielding billions as if they were mere pennies. Another display of his exceptional ability to see what no other could see, and profit like no other ever had, or ever would. At number 2, David Tepper, the hedge fund manager who made $7 billion in 1 year. David Tepper is one of the most successful and respected hedge fund managers of all time. He is the founder of Appaloosa Management, a hedge fund that has managed over $20 billion in assets and has delivered an average annual return of over 25% since 1993. He is also known for his philanthropy and his support of various causes, such as education, health, and sports. But he is most famous for his trade in 2009, when he bet on the recovery of the US economy and made over $7 billion in 1 year. This trade earned him the nickname of the man who saved Wall Street. At the time, the US economy was in the midst of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, and in the depths of the crisis, as fear gripped the land, Tepper peered with laser focus into the murk. He alone grasped the hidden logic. But he is most famous for his trade in 2009 when he bet on the recovery of the US economy and made over $7 billion in 1 year. This trade earned him the nickname of the man who saved Wall Street. At the time, the US economy was in the midst of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. In the depths of the crisis, as fear gripped the land, Tepper peered with laser focus into the murk. He alone grasped the hidden logic that this was opportunity incarnate, a chance to save not just his portfolio, but an entire nation. Armed with conviction and courage, he loaded up on battered names like AIG and Citigroup. Using leverage and calls, he placed the ultimate bet that America's indomitable spirit would rise again. And rise it did, beyond anyone's wildest dreams. As the economy roared back in 2009, Tepper's positions exploded, catapulting him to the highest reaches of Wall Street lore. He emerged having not just made $7 billion, but having earned a new title, the man who truly saved Wall Street. While others saw only fear, Tepper saw possibility. While others fled, he planted his flag, not through luck, but through vision, courage, and an unshakable belief in the power of people to overcome even their darkest of days. David Tepper was more than a trader. He was America's bright beacon of hope in its time of deepest need. And at number 1, we have Jesse Livermore, the greatest trader of all time who made $100 million in 1929. Jesse Livermore is widely regarded as the greatest trader of all time. He is the author of the classic book, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, which is considered to be the Bible of trading. He's also known for his spectacular rise and fall, his colorful life, and his tragic death. Livermore's 1929 short was the stuff of legend. As the 20s bull market peaked in wild excess, few saw the impending collapse, but Livermore had been watching carefully. He noted the growing use of margin, speculative mania taking hold, and other signs of an overheated market ready to crack. In September, Livermore began shorting the market aggressively. He placed block after block of sell orders, unloading shares he did not actually hold. Simultaneously, Livermore loaded up on put options, betting the titans of industry would fall. Then on October 24th, Black Thursday, Livermore's vision came crashing down on Wall Street. The Dow plunged, and Livermore pocketed a fortune. His uncanny perception and iron nerves had paid off to the tune of over $100 million, a sum worth billions today. In the panic and wreckage, Livermore's name became synonymous with prescience. While others chased bubbles, he saw through the mania to the cold logic beneath. His story stands as a timeless reminder that success lies not in following the crowd, but in having the discipline and insight to trade against it. These are the top 10 traders who made millions with one trade. These are the stories of the most amazing, inspiring, and legendary trades in history. These are the stories of the traders who defied the odds and made the unthinkable possible. For more videos like this, subscribe to the channel and keep checking back. Thanks for watching.